See Her Royal Highness Princess Catherine.
Named as, and it's true, the most powerful woman in the world. She was awfully good, and she's been amazing. And this is a beautiful, strong, wonderful woman.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel where the high-stakes tango between world leaders and royal elegance never fails to steal the spotlight. Today, we are diving straight into a story that has diplomats nervously tugging at their ties, palace insiders clutching their pearls, and social feeds detonating faster than fireworks on the 4th of July. Just when you thought 2025 couldn't fit in another bombshell, President Donald Trump, fresh from a pageantry-saturated state visit to the United Kingdom, strode into New York City's United Nations General Assembly with trademark bravado. And in a chamber built for solemn geopolitics, he detonated a remark that instantly rewrote headlines worldwide. Yes, yesterday, on September 23, 2025, Trump used the most famous podium on Earth not simply to thunder about trade or scold rivals, but to hail Britain's Princess Catherine as nothing less than the most powerful woman on the planet. That is not spin. That is not satire. That is the literal quote that knocked pens out of hands and drew gasps in a hall crowded with heads of state. The man who built his brand on America First paused to metaphorically crown a princess across the ocean with the title of global influence. And trust me, folks, this was not just flattery. This was a puzzle piece sliding into place, a signal pulsing beyond the applause, a move with layers of meaning we need to peel back together. So before we dissect the speech line by line, smash that like button if you're already hooked, and subscribe to this channel if you want every ripple from this seismic shift. Because this moment wasn't improvised theater, it was the climax of weeks of orchestrated encounters that began with canapés at Windsor Castle. The build-up, a state visit with hidden resonance. Let's roll tape back a week. For context, nothing about Trump and the royal family ever happens in isolation. His relationship with monarchy has always blended admiration, theatrics, and a search for reflected gravitas. So when the White House slotted his second-term state visit to the UK just after Labor Day, palace planners knew the stage was being set for fireworks. From the moment Air Force One touched down at Stansted on September 15th, cameras clicked like castanets. Trump descended in a sharp navy suit, Melania beside him in a cream sheath radiating understated chic. Along the motorcade route, crowds waved Union flags and U.S. stars and stripes. Some cheered with warmth, others stood with that peculiar British blend of polite fascination and irony-tinged restraint. But the real theater wasn't at the airports or along the mall. It was destined for Windsor Castle, that fortress of stone and history where past generations of monarchs outlasted empires. Its turrets seemed to lean into the drama, ready to host yet another collision between brash American exceptionalism and restrained royal ceremonial. The itinerary was crammed tighter than a coronation seating plan. First, the ceremonial welcome by King Charles III and Queen Camilla. Then, a palace luncheon, followed by a state banquet dripping with chandeliers and string quartets. Even a wreath laying at the memorial of the late Queen Elizabeth II, Trump's self-declared favorite person in the world. Insiders whispered that Trump looked lit up like a child on Christmas Eve. He had long admired the monarchy, seeing in its pageantry echoes of the power branding he cultivated himself. To him, pomp was not just ornament, it was strategic narrative. But at Windsor, something unexpected unfolded. The undeniable star of the visit wasn't Charles, or Camilla, or even Trump himself. It was Catherine, Princess of Wales. Shimmering in a series of tailored outfits that melded timeless British tailoring with modern edge, Catherine immediately drew attention, not just for her style, but for her substance. Staffers described an ease between her and Trump almost instantly. Banquet banter flowed beyond small talk, touching on family, resilience, and the pressures of spotlight. Trump's famously blunt compliments, "You are so beautiful," were met with Catherine's signature warmth and graceful deflection. She laughed, acknowledged, but pivoted the conversation back to shared experiences and charity work. Over the next 48 hours, those conversations stacked like bricks in a castle wall. a private tour of Windsor's hidden chambers where Trump compared castle tapestries to his Mar-a-Lago collection, a garden stroll with Prince William, bonding over golf swings and the trials of fatherhood, and with Catherine, more deepening rapport, discussions on children's mental health, the challenges of public trust, and even jokes about the relentless eye of tabloids. One aide described their connection as instant chemistry, not romantic, but empathetic. Two people who know what it means to carry the world's gaze on your shoulders. At the banquet's close, Trump even strayed from his chef-approved script to toast Catherine's radiant health, a deliberate nod to her well-publicized recovery from serious illness. The hall applauded, and the moment flickered across headlines. Yet few realized it was only prelude. As the visit wrapped, parting gifts carried layers of symbolism. Trump presented the royals with a custom engraved silver eagle, the emblem of American might. Charles reciprocated with a signed Churchill First Edition, linking himself with Britain's most storied statesman. Catherine, meanwhile, handed Melania a delicate porcelain vase painted in dawn blue hues from the royal kills, a gift as elegant and symbolic as she is. The exchange, photographed and splashed across tabloids, flowed with warmth. When Air Force One lifted off from Heathrow on September 18th en route to New York, official briefings emphasized trade conversations and defense ties. But online, the clips that trended were personal. Trump praising Catherine, Catherine laughing warmly in reply. Social media hashtags erupted. Hashtag Trump meets Kate. Hashtag Future Queen. Hashtag Royal Chemistry. From London to New York, the sparks travel. Barely had jet lag settled before Trump's team pivoted into UN prep. Yet advisors confessed privately that the president obsessed over Catherine in particular. Footage of their banquet exchange looped on the plane. She gets it, he reportedly told Melania. The glare, the grind, but look at her shine. His speechwriters noticed too. Drafts of his UN General Assembly address began to include more woven references to enduring alliances and quiet resilience. Originally, no one suspected this would culminate in a direct reference to Catherine. But as one aide later revealed, we should have known. He was circling her name the entire flight. By the time the UN Assembly loomed, the stage wasn't just set for policy. It was set for a curveball wrapped in royal lace. September in New York is always electric during General Assembly Week. Security barricades transformed Midtown into a fortress. Black SUVs snaked through avenues like steel vipers. Within the UN's glass-paneled hive on the East River, world leaders milled, trading guarded smiles and strategic nods. Trump, suited sharply with a navy tie, arrived early. Cameras flashed. Emmanuel Macron gave a polite handshake, Olaf Scholz a curt nod, Narendra Modi a warm clap on the back. Yet behind Trump's eyes, according to staffers, the echoes of Windsor remained alive. Delegates braced for the familiar: tariff threats, sovereignty sermons, perhaps one or two Rocket Man-style jabs left over from his first presidency. But what they would receive, instead, was something much more cinematic. Inside the UN headquarters, the mood was expectant but wary. The General Assembly always hums with a kind of diplomatic static, translators at the ready, aides shuffling notepads, delegates thinning coffee cups as they rehearse polite applause. This is the global stage where words can launch wars or soothe them, where every phrasing is dissected in dozens of capitals within hours. On September 23, 2025, all eyes fell to the familiar figure, Donald Trump. Brisk walk, shoulders rolling with confidence, tie knotted sharp as a blade. The collective inhale of the audience betrayed a mix of tension and curiosity. What would he do this time? Tradition remembers his past performances. In 2017, he used this podium to brand North Korea's Kim Jong-un Rocket Man. In 2019, he bellowed sovereignty slogans that left European counterparts blanching. In 2025, following his Windsor detour, he arrived not just as a president intent on America first, but as a showman carrying stories from castle halls. That unexpected luggage would soon spill open. He began classically Trump. America is stronger than ever, he boomed, voice reverberating across the tall chamber. He ticked off statistics, trade wins, defense deals inked behind closed doors. Delegates scribbled notes. His rhetoric was bold, unapologetic, rugged in a way that played well back home, but often grated in these marble walls. There were rebukes, too. Thinly veiled jabs at China's trade practices. Sly nods to energy independence. Even faint swipes at climate agreements he deemed unfair. The atmosphere was not quite frosty, but taut. Leaders leaned back in their seats, waiting for confrontation. And then a gear shift. Somewhere around the 20-minute mark, as aides in the wings shuffled nervously, Trump veered from script. His voice dropped. The timbre grew softer, almost conversational, more fireside chat than foreign policy lecture. Just last week, he began, I returned from a remarkable visit to the United Kingdom. Great people, tremendous history. And let me tell you something, the royal family, class acts, every one of them. There was a ripple in the room. Delegates glanced sideways at each other. The UN stage is rarely used for royal shout-outs. It was unexpected enough for murmurs to stir across the chamber. Trump pressed on, painting Windsor scenes like a storyteller, candlelit banquets, toasts with crystal flutes, a wreath laid for Queen Elizabeth II. He touched on King Charles, a fine man, sharp as they come. He called Queen Camilla warm and welcoming. He nodded to Prince William, no doubt future king material. Polite applause followed, slightly bemused, but cordial. And then came the hush. Trump lingered at the lectern, eyes scanning rows of international envoys like a performer working his audience. He knew what was coming would land. But if I may, Trump said, raising one hand lightly, I have to say something about one person in particular. The Princess of Wales. Catherine. What a woman. Grace under fire. Strength that does not quit. I sat next to her at dinner, looked her in the eye, and I thought, this is power, real power. Not the kind you shout about, but the kind that shapes destinies quietly, effectively. Ladies and gentlemen, in my book, she is the most powerful woman in the world right now. Gasps rippled through the hall. The British delegation froze for half a beat, then exchanged stunned glances. Pens paused mid-note. Translators hesitated, double-checking they'd heard correctly. A line that would become headline holy text was out in the open. In one breath, amid a hall of presidents, prime ministers, and monarchs, Trump had elevated Catherine, not Melania, not Kamala Harris, not Ursula von der Leyen, not Xi's wife, not Merkel's successors, Catherine, the Princess of Wales. The weight hung in the silence, before applause fluttered, uncertain, then grew. Some clapped with gusto, others reluctantly. It was less coordinated support than shocked acknowledgement, but it resounded. One French envoy arched his brow and muttered, incroyable, to a seamate. The Saudi delegation nodded sagely. The Japanese tapped notes feverishly. Across the British row, a female diplomat couldn't help a smile, later described as half shock, half vindication. From the podium, Trump smiled, soaking in the energy. He had just accomplished what he thrives on, flipping the narrative, commanding breaths, making his speech unforgettable by blowing past boundaries. He slipped smoothly back to policy points, sovereignty, trade leverage, border strength, but no one was writing those down. Their pens still hovered over one sentence. Catherine is the most powerful woman in the world. Coverage crackled within minutes. CNN anchors scrambled. Did the U.S. president just crown Kate Middleton the most powerful woman alive? Fox News spun instantly. Trump spotlights real leadership. Princess Catherine exemplifies true power. BBC channels cut mid-segment to replay the clip on loop. Social platforms exploded. Hashtags like hashtag Trump praises Kate, hashtag most powerful woman, and hashtag Kate conquers UN soared to global trends. On TikTok, the short 15-second moment looped millions of times, Trump leaning in, the hall's hush, the sudden swelling applause. Meme makers had field day, Catherine seated on the UN Council throne, Catherine wielding a scepter in the Security Council. Reactions spanned the spectrum. Feminist commentators debated the framing. Some celebrated it as a cross-cultural nod to female resilience. Others worried about uncritical pedestal placing. Political columnists asked whether this was statesmanship, strategy, or pure Trump impulse. But public sentiment in polls tilted clear. Admiration spiked. Overnight surveys in the UK showed 76% approval of the comment. In the US, even Trump critics admitted tasteful, rare show of respect. And among Commonwealth demographics, especially in Australia and Canada, Catherine's ratings tipped upwards. As dawn broke in London, palace phones rang incessantly. Courtiers murmured over press summaries. Within hours, Kensington Palace released a polite note. The Princess of Wales is grateful for the kind words and remains focused on her work supporting families and children. But the real response was in Catherine's demeanor. At a school engagement that very morning, she wore a calm smile that tickled photographers. William, exchanging private words with aides, looked equal parts proud and amused. Insiders said she treated it with her usual practicality. It's flattering, but she files it away, uses it as quiet motivation rather than public boast. Melania Trump boosted the moment by posting a Windsor throwback photo on Instagram. Her chatting animatedly with Catherine, captioned simply, "Inspiring." It exploded with likes from A-listers. Oprah wrote a subtle endorsement, tweeting about quiet strength. Reese Witherspoon called it a mic drop moment for women everywhere. Elon Musk chimed in with, "Finally, someone gets it, quiet beats noise," and a crown emoji. Whether you loved it or not, you couldn't escape it. Catherine's name dominated Google search, Twitter feeds, and breakfast table chatter worldwide. Why would Trump, a figure defined by his assertive self-promotion, use his biggest global platform to praise a royal who embodies almost the opposite: modest, carefully private, cautiously human? The answer lay in Windsor. Observers said he saw in Catherine not just elegance, but endurance. She met the unrelenting spotlight without bitterness. She endured a very public medical battle with strength and grace. She performed the dual act of serving crown and family without faltering. He watched her work the room, one advisor revealed. She didn't chase the spotlight sought her. That impressed him. In Trump's lexicon, that was real power. And in front of the UN, carving her into a speech served both admiration and advantage. It cast him not just as brash nationalist, but as a man who respected grace, resilience, global icons of quiet authority. When the applause ebbed in the UN General Assembly Hall and Trump stepped away from the lectern, the buzz did not fade. It grew louder, carried through corridors, whispered in elevators, and blasted across encrypted diplomatic texts. What had begun as a speech heavy on sovereignty and trade had ended as something unexpected: a public coronation of soft power in the form of Princess Catherine. Within 30 minutes of the speech ending, major networks across time zones cut regular programming to replay the clip on loop. CNN anchors leaned back in their chairs, wide-eyed, one asking aloud, "Did he just crown Kate Middleton the most powerful woman alive?" BBC presenters, startled by the deviation at such a formal forum, offered replay after replay of Trump's earnest gaze when he delivered the line. On Fox News, the line was spun as deliberate genius, proof that Trump could spot leadership quality even across the Atlantic. By afternoon in New York, the clip had gone fully viral. Hashtags surged. Hashtag most powerful woman. Hashtag Kate conquers UN. Hashtag Trump and Kate. On X, trending topics overlapped across continents, connecting American pundits, British tabloids, Australian journalists, and global royal watchers into one unbroken feedback loop. TikTok edits proliferated, Trump declaring the line set to triumphant music, Catherine's smiling banquet footage intercut. Memes spread like wildfire, inserting Catherine into mock UN Security Council seats, wearing a crown, or photoshopped into a Time magazine cover titled Most Powerful. Back in London, the palace machine moved swiftly but carefully. Phones rang off the hook in Kensington Palace press offices as journalists hammered with requests for official comment. Yet the firm, honed by decades of discipline, declined to indulge in spectacle. By noon Greenwich Mean Time, they issued a single crisp line: "The Princess of Wales is grateful for the kind acknowledgement and remains focused on her charitable and family work." It was the palace version of a smile and nod, a statement that acknowledged the compliment without inflating it. Yet even that subtle phrasing was dissected by commentators as strategically brilliant, reinforcing Catherine's humility while letting others promote her global aura. But the real response, as often with Catherine, came visually rather than verbally. Later that morning, she appeared at a school engagement in Lambrook, dressed in smart navy and sky blue, smiling calmly as children greeted her with drawings and teachers offered handshakes. To photographers, her grin looked slightly wider than usual, betraying perhaps a private sense of amusement at the firestorm swirling thousands of miles away. William, by her side, was photographed sharing quiet words with aides, his expression blending pride, protectiveness, and faint bemusement. Insiders whispered that he laughed it off privately, but did not underestimate its potential reach. The chorus of celebrity response only amplified the moment. Oprah Winfrey tweeted a thread about strength that does not shout and tagged Catherine alongside a crown emoji. Reese Witherspoon dubbed it a mic drop moment for women everywhere. Elon Musk weighed in with, finally, someone gets it. Quiet beats noise. Taylor Swift retweeted with a single sparkle crown. This virtual endorsement chain turned the comment from a quirky Trump flourish into a genuine cultural moment. Influencers created threads about the Kate effect, moving beyond fashion into politics. Business writers analyzed her influence as a case study in intangible brand equity. Parenting forums buzzed with stories about Catherine as role model mom who manages a crown and school runs. Not everyone applauded. Late-night comedians had a field day. Trump at the UN, tariffs, treaties, and tiaras. One joked before cutting to a doctored clip of Catherine wielding a bald eagle like a scepter. The Atlantic ran an op-ed describing Trump's detour into royalty as a diversionary dazzle, questioning whether it conveniently distracted from hard policy content. Some feminist voices criticized the elevation as pedestalizing, suggesting women should not need royal titles to be acknowledged as leaders. Online debates split evenly, with spirited threads receiving tens of thousands of replies. Yet, even among skeptics, there was grudging admission that Catherine's global star had only brightened. Diplomatic analysts huddled in think tanks and newsrooms debated whether the line was calculated or spontaneous. Was Trump deliberately flattering Britain to shore up transatlantic ties in a Brexit era? Was it meant to seduce female voters at home who admired Catherine's blend of grace and grit? Or was it simply Trump being Trump, impulsive yet instinctively understanding that a compliment well-placed holds more resonance than 100 tariffs threatened? One UN veteran put it bluntly over coffee. He turned a policy speech into a love letter. Risky, yes, but unforgettable. The phrase, most powerful woman in the world, is not one Trump chose carelessly. In his culture, power is about visibility, brand, endurance. Catherine's trajectory, from the young woman whose marriage captivated billions, to a mother balancing royal duty with school gates, to a cancer survivor who returned with humility and resilience, embodies that ethos without the brashness. His aides revealed that the Windsor experience crystallized it for him. Watching Catherine navigate pressures with calm composure, he saw her not as a passive royal, but as an active force. She worked the room without working for it, one aide said later. That's why he latched onto her name. The ripple stretched far beyond Washington and London. In Nairobi, activists gathered for a women's empowerment rally carried placards quoting Trump's exact line. In Tokyo, a minister referenced it in a press briefing about women's roles in politics. In Canada and Australia, breakfast shows turned it into headline fodder and guests debated, is Kate really the most powerful? For days, conversations from foreign ministries to family kitchens circled back to the same unlikely sentence. Back home, the praise gave Trump an unusual sheen. Even critics admitted it was one of his most human moments on the international stage. Republican strategists saw immediate poll bumps in voter groups not typically drawn to him, labeling it the Catherine effect. At the same time, liberal commentators warned against being distracted by royal fairy tales when harsher policies remained beneath the surface. Yet the line succeeded in doing what Trump values most, ensuring his speech was unforgettable, ensuring his audience left talking not about French trade disputes or German tariffs, but about his anointing of Princess Catherine. For Catherine herself, sources closest to Kensington said she was touched but unfazed. Those who know her described her attitude, to regard it as kind words filed away, then move on with focus steady on family and charity work. To her, being elevated linguistically to most powerful reinforced not ego, but responsibility. That humility in turn generated more admiration, proving to skeptics that Catherine's greatest power lies in her consistency. As one observer put it, the less she tries to prove her power, the more people believe in it. Behind palace gates, planners began murmuring about possibilities. A White House invitation for William and Catherine, perhaps timed for spring blossoms, was floated as reciprocal symbolism. Analysts pointed to a potential charity summit linking Catherine's mental health initiatives to American partners. Journalists speculated daily on where this strange royal political fusion might go next. The one certainty was that Catherine's UN acknowledgement had outgrown its moment. It had become part of a narrative about her rise as global figure, not only in future queenhood, but in international relevance. When news of Trump's words reached Buckingham Palace in the early morning hours of September 24th, aides rushed to prepare summaries for King Charles's immediate perusal. Yet insiders reveal it was not the trade references or climate passages that caught his attention, it was the singular line about his daughter-in-law. He paused, reread it twice, and reportedly said softly, "Well, she has that effect, does she not?" Charles is no stranger to the weight of words. His own speeches through decades as Prince of Wales often echoed with ecological urgency and appeals for cultural unity. Yet rarely has a monarch seen a foreign president, let alone a U.S. one, use the world's podium to anoint a royal with such praise. For Charles, the moment carried personal and institutional pride. It validated his long belief that Catherine embodies a blend of continuity and modernity, a figure who can bridge tradition with relevance. Those close to him describe a restrained but unmistakable glow. He reportedly shared a private toast with Camilla that evening, acknowledging the unexpected, yet powerful validation. His words, "She proves that resilience speaks louder than rhetoric." As public attention intensified, William and Catherine faced a delicate balancing act. Their star power surged, yet monarchy thrives more on mystique than relentless exposure. For William, the praise was both blessing and burden. His pride in Catherine was evident, but he remained mindful of managing expectations. Insiders reveal he reminded aides, "We stay grounded, steady, let the causes lead." For Catherine, the experience became fuel rather than fuss. She focused on her ongoing initiatives with children, families, and cancer research, refusing to let noise distract from purpose. This refusal to gloat reinforced her authenticity, and analysts argued that this humility only multiplied the weight of Trump's words. Historians and political thinkers quickly began to assess the moment's long-range impact. Was it a footnote destined to fade in the churn of daily headlines? Or was it something more profound, a public declaration signaling that monarchy still contains global relevance in an era where many question its role? Those in the first camp caution perspective. Trump is known for theatrics, and his compliment could easily be overshadowed by subsequent controversies. Yet the second camp counters that the cultural impact was undeniable. For once, global news cycles were dominated not by scandal, but by admiration, not by dispute, but by recognition of dignity. The most striking outcome was the redefinition of the word power. Trump's use of it to describe Catherine marked a shift. He did not mean military power, legislative power, or financial clout. He meant the steadiness of a woman who endured trials in plain view of the world and emerged with support intact. He meant influence that does not demand but inspires, endurance that commands respect without insistence. In Catherine, people saw a model of leadership distinct from bluster. She was a living embodiment of grace strengthened through adversity. For many observers, it was refreshing to hear the UN chamber echo not with threats or ultimatums, but with praise for such a concept of power. Polling data released within a week reinforced the moment's influence. In Britain, approval for Catherine climbed to 82%, with many respondents saying they felt proud, to see her described that way on a global stage. Among younger demographics, often less attached to monarchy, there was a notable bump in favorable views, with many describing her as relatable yet inspiring. In the United States, even among groups skeptical of both monarchy and Trump, 63% of respondents agreed with the statement. Princess Catherine represents a positive example of leadership. Across Commonwealth countries, from Canada to New Zealand, associations with Catherine grew stronger, with headlines describing her as the modern face of the royal family. Media outlets began exploring parallels. Commentators compared Catherine's moment at the UN to Elizabeth II's wartime broadcasts, Diana's humanitarian tours, and even Charles's early speeches on climate. Each time, a royal voice emerged unexpectedly into a global context, reframing how the monarchy was perceived. Catherine's was a continuation of this legacy, but also an evolution. She did not broadcast proclamations or lead tours. She became powerful by simply being consistent in service and grace. Strategists inside both Buckingham Palace and Downing Street saw hidden opportunity. The phrase "most powerful woman in the world" gave Britain a soft power advantage at a time when tangible power had waned post-Brexit. Tying Catherine's influence into Commonwealth frameworks, particularly in nations debating Republican shifts, could strengthen loyalty. In Australia, for example, pro-monarchy advocates immediately cited Trump's words as proof that their future queen commands global respect far beyond ceremonial status. While Republican murmurs will never fully dissolve, analysts agree Catherine's portrayal as a global powerhouse complicates arguments portraying the royals as obsolete. Instead, she offers an image of monarchy as contemporary, compassionate, and quietly commanding. Perhaps the most tangible outcome was philanthropic. Donations to Catherine's cancer research initiatives spiked within days, credited to her visibility in headlines and viral social media clips. Supporters cited Trump's elevation as motivation to give, describing it as a reminder of how far she has come. The Royal Press Office deftly tied the boost to ongoing efforts, turning words into practical uplift for causes close to Catherine's heart. Ultimately, the saga underscored monarchy's evolution into what many call an influence institution. Its power is no longer just in signing treaties or hosting galas, but in shaping public sentiment across continents. In Catherine, the world glimpsed not a museum of heritage, but a living, breathing model of strength. For Charles, this assured him that his push for a slimmed-down, modernized monarchy is viable. For William, it reassured him that his wife's humanity only enhances their joint legitimacy. For global audiences, it marked a reminder that not all leadership requires a title of prime minister or president. Sometimes, it comes wearing a tiara, framed by empathy. As days turned to weeks, one question remained. Was Trump's declaration spontaneous flair or shrewd diplomacy cloaked in praise? Pundits remain divided. Some view it as classic Trump, impulsively elevating someone he liked. Others argue it was strategic, a gesture of respect to Britain that cost nothing yet reaped admiration. Whatever the origin, the effect was real. Catherine's stature rose. The monarchy's relevance pulsed anew. And international discourse found itself entwined not with tariffs or nuclear talk, but with the symbolism of quiet strength amid chaos. Speculation buzzes about the next steps. Will William and Catherine accept a White House invitation? Will future joint initiatives emerge, blending her family focus with America's mental health agenda? Could soft power symbolism translate into sustained policy cooperation? Time will tell. For now, what is certain is that a phrase spoken in New York has echoed across continents. A phrase linking Windsor halls to UN marble, royal resilience to global relevance. There are moments in history when one line reshapes narratives. For Elizabeth II, it was her wartime broadcasts calming a nation. For Diana, it was her touch of an AIDS patient's hand redefining compassion. For Charles, it was his decades-long cry for climate action finally meeting recognition. For Catherine, it will forever be Trump's words in September 2025, uttered before the world, the most powerful woman in the world. Whether viewed as strategy or spontaneity, the line rang true to millions. It reframed power as resilience and inspired admiration across political lines. It crowned Catherine not with a diadem of diamonds, but with acknowledgement that modern leadership wears humility well. So, as we watch tides of politics shift and the monarchy find its next act, let us pause to note this scene. An American president in a hall of flags, tipping his verbal crown across the Atlantic to a princess of Wales. And perhaps, in that pause, we recognize the future not only of monarchy, but of leadership itself. And there you have it, friends. A whirlwind that began with trumpets in Windsor and ended in thunderous applause at the UN, with Catherine standing silently yet undeniably at its core. Do you think Trump's line was genuine admiration, clever strategy, or a bit of both? Is Catherine truly the most powerful woman in the world, or is she the symbol we all want in chaotic times? Let me know in the comments below, and if you were captivated by this saga, tap like, share it with fellow royal watchers, and subscribe for more deep dives into how power, pageantry, and politics twist together. Until next time, keep your eyes on both crowns and podiums. Because as September 2025 proved, sometimes the quietest figures inspire the loudest applause.